Hello, everyone. It's Bernadette Boas, and welcome to your master class on how to achieve massive riches in your career, business, and life. Now, we have a lot to cover on this hour-long program, so I'd like you to do two things for yourself. Grab a pen and a journal or a notebook, but not just a loose piece of paper that you can easily discard. And then I want you to shut off, close, whatever you need to do, any distractions around you. It could be your email, your voicemail, your social networks, or even the door to your office or room that you're in. All right? Because as I said, we have a jam-packed session. And what we're going to discuss are the challenges and pains women just like you face each and every day. And then we're going to talk through a proven 5-step shift to riches formula that I've been using with my corporate entrepreneurial clients for the last 8 years. And then you're going to have an opportunity to create your very own shift to rich plan based on that formula. How does that sound? All right. As I mentioned, for the last 8 years, I have coached, trained, and spoken on stages to corporate and entrepreneurial organizations, associations, and I have also coached every level of an organization, from the college student just going into the workforce to the CEO of corporate enterprises and entrepreneurial organizations. And every one of these individuals, female or male, will come to me and ask, Bernadette, why are some people more successful than others? What is it that they're doing that they're able to achieve their goals and aspirations than myself or someone else? Is there a secret formula, so to speak? Well, the coach that I am, I always have to follow up with questions. So I would first ask, how do you define success? What are you judging? What are you comparing? What are you setting your expectations on when it comes to the success you want to be achieving? That understanding will help me provide the proper guidance and advice and tips in order for you to have a clearer understanding of your question, right? So then they would say to me, all right, fair enough, but why am I not where I should be or where I was expected to be? And again, I'd follow up with, where were you expecting to be? And what have you done to get there? And what haven't you done to get there? And a number of other questions that you just want to continually ask yourself and drill down, almost peeling back that onion, in order for you to get better clarity and better understanding of where you are, and in this case, where you had planned to be. And I find that most people don't have that understanding. Most people don't have their definition of success or their goals and aspirations and where they expected it to be down on paper as opposed to in their head. So we'll talk about that as we continue forward, because it has a lot to do with the fact that they're also challenged with feeling as if they're always behind the 8 ball. Especially you ladies, you have a lot to juggle in your life, and you put a lot of pressure and expectation on yourself to always be able to handle life smoothly. Well, guess what? The reality is life is not smooth. And so many individuals, many women, many professionals will come to me at the time when they just are really frustrated with the struggle, with viewing other people as if they're going through life with ease and achieving everything that they want, and yet whether in corporate or on their own, in their own business, they always seem to be slugging along, a gerbil on a wheel, and not getting where they want to be. Now, ultimately, what they're really asking when we really get down to the nitty-gritty is, what can I be doing differently? What can I be doing new? How do I need to change in order to achieve my goals, my dreams, my riches that I have for my career, business, and or life? And if you're having those same type of questions, if you're struggling with those same type of things, then you're in the right place in this program in order to understand a formula that will help you work through it. All right. because it's what I want for you. It's what I want for whatever goals and dreams you have for yourself. We want to get you results. We want to get you success. We want to get you riches, however you might define them. And we're going to give you an opportunity here in order to do that. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in corporate America pretty much from a very early age. I'm one of 12 children out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So we learned to work early in our life. And I had the fortunate opportunity to have a corporate headquarter job while I was still in college. And I pretty much spent my entire career, whether in retail or technology. And I was at pretty much every rung of the ladder, so to speak, from a merchandising buyer to a consulting partner to a vice president of an organization development group to the chief knowledge officer of a professional services organization for a technology company. So I understand corporate. I understand the workings. I understand the highs and the lows of it. And I absolutely loved the whole corporate game, so to speak. Until November 26, 2007, by 8:05 that morning, it was the Monday morning after Thanksgiving, a nice long holiday weekend. And I was all excited to get back to work, to get the holidays kicked off and to finish up the great projects and initiatives I was working on before the end of the year. And yet by 8:05 that morning, I was standing in the middle of the parking lot with a pink slip in my hand. I had just been fired by my boss and mentor of 12 years. And I stood there in the parking lot with a single box of my 25-year corporate career, and I was completely confused. I was certainly upset. I was certainly angered. I was certainly hurt, but I was more confused as to how did I land up in this parking lot with a pink slip in my hand. And I knew only one thing at that moment in time. I knew I had to figure it out. I knew I had to figure out what caused me to lose my corporate career, my corporate identity, my personal identity, let alone the big job and the big office and the big salary and everything that came along with it. I needed to figure out how did I lose myself along this path that I was finding myself on. So I spent the next several months, about 6 to 9 months, really digging deep and trying to get an understanding of who I was at the time and who I was that landed me in that parking lot and who I wanted to be as I was finding out certain things about myself that weren't quite so pretty. And then I had to figure out who didn't I want to be. Because as you kind of ask yourself these type of questions, there's going to be things you love about yourself, what I call honor your riches, but there's going to be things that you are frustrated with or just really kind of hurting or angered about, or you just don't like. And therefore, you are able to figure out what it is you want and you don't want out of whatever aspect of life, if not all of it, that you're confronting. And I certainly did. I certainly did a lot of confronting and drumming up the pain that I was feeling, and that was leading me to understanding what brought me to that parking lot with a pink slip in my hand. I was feeling as if I was a fraud as I got more and more successful, as if I didn't deserve to be where I was, didn't deserve to make the money I was making, didn't deserve to have the travel that I had, and that sooner or later someone was going to figure it out, that I wasn't as skilled and smart and experienced and expert as even my mentor and boss and peers and colleagues might have thought I was. I was also very, very concerned about what you thought of me. I was very consumed with how I looked and how I presented myself in ways, though, that you'll see in a minute, in ways that weren't necessarily the style of a leader, the style of a professional, the style of an executive that corporate America wanted. And I also was discovering that I really just didn't think I was good enough to be the real leader, the true leader that I needed to be if I was going to break that glass ceiling, if I was going to obtain all the, you know, riches at the time as I defined them. I wasn't that person. I wasn't good enough and deserving enough and worthy enough to obtain those things. And what it caused me to realize and really uncover about myself and really discover as to why I landed up in the middle of that parking lot was the fact that I was projecting myself out in such a aggressive, demeaning, curt, bully, or what many people would call bitchy type of style. I was demanding someone's respect as opposed to commanding it with a strong leadership style. I was trying to control every situation. I was looking out only for myself and how I was going to not climb the corporate ladder, but claw up the corporate ladder. And it left me unable to build relationships and really connect and allow people to really get to know and like, know, and trust me. And at the same time, it was also causing me to really go after opportunities and go after advancements and go after what I wanted in a very desperate way, in a very lacking way. So through my path and through that unraveling of my corporate career, I was really faced with needing to be honest and raw and naked with myself in order to be able to move forward and create and accelerate everything that I really, truly wanted from my life. But it wasn't until I was willing to ask the hard questions, willing to feel the pain, the shame, the humiliation, that I was actually able to then start shifting to a much happier place, a much joyful place, or a much richer place. And I was then able to, as I started to go through this shift to riches process myself, and that's where it comes from, is my own journey, I started making connections in relationships. I started relating to my employees and my clients and my vendors and my friends and my boyfriends and my family. They started seeing the real me. And it started impacting how I was able to lead and how I was able to be influential and how I was able to really be successful in not only leading my own business, but also leading my life as a whole. And it's opened up so many opportunities and so many different adventures for myself. And it opened up so many new connections. I would have never have imagined that 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would be in this place that I am in today. And it's allowed me to what I call shift to riches and start a whole new life, start a whole new business, start a whole new movement, so to speak, in really trying to help women just like yourself get out of your way, get out of your head, and focus on your heart, focus on your dreams, focus on your goals, and focus on achieving those riches that you want and you deserve. So I went on and kind of packaged up my story, my lessons, my best practices in my 2012 book, Shedding the Corporate Bitch. I wrote it as an apology, explanation, and a way to take accountability. I didn't realize at the time when I published it in 2012 that so many women, so many men would relate to my story. Now, they didn't relate to it as far as maybe corporate was concerned. They didn't relate to it as far as what I had turned into, so to speak, as a result of my own insecurities, intimidations, fears, negativities. but they were able to relate to how they responded to situations in their life that weren't going well for them, such as I had people come up to me saying, Bernadette, I totally get your story of lashing out due to my cancer, due to my divorce, due to coming out of the closet, due to being overweight, due to being, I had one woman say, due to being an African-American corporate executive who has similar challenges and similar fights within the workplace. And I was floored. And therefore, I went from the potentially self-publishing and sending it to 100 people and using it as my apology to making sure that it got published and it was used in everything that I do in order to help as many people with my story so they know they can relate, whether it is in the business world or not. So then I realized that I needed to get my message out on a broader scale. So I started my radio show. I also have turned my story into a feature film. And overall, I started to really coach and consult with individuals and organizations around the globe as far as what they could be doing to help their team members, their leaders, themselves in being as productive, effective, and successful in the workplace or at home, because we know all of them are interchangeable. We bring to work what happens at home. We bring home what happens at work. And so I've spent the last 8 years just loving every aspect of being able to help individuals and organizations shift to riches for themselves and watch their success, profitability, and productivity grow. The one biggest lesson that I learned that I leveraged within the Shift to Riches formula is the fact that it didn't matter how skilled, how expert, how experienced, how well awarded, how much I achieved or what the results were that I got for an organization. I was still left out in the middle of a parking lot with a pink slip in my hand. So what I learned was, as important as all those things are, what I needed to focus on, and now I'm saying to you, what you need to focus on is mastering, is exercising, is massaging, is caring for your mindset, your belief system, the narrative of what it is that you tell yourself, and pay attention to then how that is being projected out into the world. If you're a student or a lover or a believer in things like The Secret or Law of Attraction, you get and you understand that what you project out in the world, how you go out into the world, is what you're going to receive from the world. So if you're going out into the world unhappy or pained in some way, shape, or form, then it's how the world's going to respond to you. So if you are experiencing any degree of your pains and you're feeling stuck or confused or unsure of yourself or desperate and feeling like you're lacking or there's never enough, or you're complaining and you're feeling negative all the time and it's just kind of clamping down on your spirit, you can fill in the blank as to what pain, as I call it, you're experiencing. But what you really need to think about is, how is that impacting everything around you? Whether it would be the fact that you have the confidence, the nerve, as some would say, to ask for what it is that you want, ask for that promotion, ask for that raise. Whether or not you're pursuing new opportunities for yourself will be severely damaged, so to speak, by any of the pains that you might be holding on to. As well, that it'll reflect itself in the decisions that you're making and the opportunities that you're taking. And obviously, in my case, just my overall approach, I won't even call it a leadership style, my overall approach to how I went about engaging and working with team members and managers and clients. Your pains have direct impacts to how and what you're achieving in your life. So our whole goal and objective is for then you being able to shift out of those pains and find the confidence and the feeling of abundance and the clarity and the certainty and the intention of what it is you want to be achieving. Because if you ever think, ladies, if you ever think about that time where you get all dressed up for a wonderful party, or maybe you presented something, a presentation at work and it went fabulously, you know that all of that provides you a sense of confidence and energy and focus and determination and persistence to want to feel that again. So kind of focusing on getting yourself out of your own way and shifting out of that pain to feeling confidence and positivity and joy and strength will ultimately impact the fact that you can go and ask for what it is you want. You can go and feel you deserve that promotion or that raise. You can take the seat at the table, or lean in with other professionals, other executives, and feel as if you belong there and not doubt that. You're going to take risks. You're going to say no when you mean no, as opposed to many of us who like to please people and therefore will often say yes even when we're screaming internally no. And of course, we're going to want to give and share and collaborate and engage and any number of other impacts that you having more focus on your mindset, the strengthening of it, the empowering of it, you're going to achieve and succeed whatever it is you want in life. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to think through this, to dig deep. It is going to be uncomfortable, and anything worth having is going to be uncomfortable at times until you start working through the process, working through the formula, and going through the stages, as I call them. Then you'll start gaining those joys, of which then will help you propel yourself forward to not only achieve things, but you first need to define and pursue them. But you will get the results. You will gain those riches as a result of doing so. All right. Hopefully you're taking notes already, but I definitely want you to be pen and journal in hand, because you're actually going to answer many of the questions that I would be asking you in any type of coaching situation as I would walk someone through the Shift to Riches formula. So in the first phase of Discover, there are hundreds of questions that we could be discussing. I'm going to give you 3 of the most critical that will provide you some new information, some new understanding, some new beliefs within yourself that will allow you to put the plan together and take action on it. So the first one I want you to think about, and I want to start off by also saying, I want you to think about the first thing that comes to your head. That's what I want you to put down as a response. I don't want you to overanalyze. I don't want you to critique or edit. Oftentimes, your truth sits on the surface. So use that truth, use that surface, use that first thought, and make a note of it. All right. Now, it could be words you're putting down in response to these questions, or it could be sentences. It doesn't matter. You'll have time through my talking to make note of it. So the first question is, what do riches look like for you in your life? So we discussed that at the very beginning, that people question, why are some people more successful than others? Well, you need to understand what success or riches means to you. So what does that look like? You could do it from a visual perspective. You could do it from a list perspective. You could look at it from your career, your own business, aspects of your life. It doesn't matter. What does riches, if someone asked you, how would you define success? How would you define riches? What does it mean to you? I want you to think about, and again, on the surface, I want you to think about just one single goal out of your work, out of your business or your life that you want to be achieving, you want to be focused on, you want to be pursuing. What is that one goal? And again, feel the butterflies, feel the discomfort, feel the excitement. I love goal setting, so I often get excited because now is the most critical question that I ask individuals in the discovery phase. And that is why? Why do you want to achieve that goal? I call it finding your why spot. Many of us give up on our goals because of the fact that our whys aren't strong enough. So say you set a goal that you want to lose 10 pounds, and if you do, you're going to treat yourself to a new dress. Well, simply that being your why is not going to be good enough. Even simply saying because you want to fit into a dress is not going to be good enough. You wanting to advance yourself in your career, you want a promotion, you want a raise, simply because you want more money to pay bills or you want more responsibility, that's not going to be good enough. That's not your why. Your why is going to be more like from a health perspective or the weight perspective, because you want to live a healthy life. You want to be fit. You don't want to feel or suffer as you get older and you continue to want to get the most out of life. If it's your advancement or the raise, it's not to pay the bills. It's more like because you want to leave a legacy. You want to show others and teach others and influence others, maybe young girls, that they can do it too. You want to be able to serve and give back to the community as a result of your advancement or your raise or whatever the case might be. The why has to be strong enough to where you will fight through any fight and you will celebrate and honor whatever successes and achievements you're making. So what is that why? Now, let me back up really quick and tell you for myself in this discovery phase. For me, it was discovering, really, I needed to find out why I was standing in the middle of that parking lot. But my why for finding that out is because I needed to change. I knew I needed to do something different. I knew that I wanted a rich, full life. And if I didn't figure it out, I wasn't going to have that. And I didn't want to risk that happening again, risk losing another job or another client or whatever because of the fact that I was that same type of leader. I was that same type of bully that I had discovered I was. So my why was all about, I wanted to be completely a new and different woman as a result of what I was discovering about myself. So in your confronting, I often will look at first, I really want you to think about what are the riches, what are those beauty marks that you possess within yourself that will also, along with your why, give you that confidence, give you that energy, give you that determination to push through the pains so you can find the joys. The riches could be the qualities, your traits, your values, what people say about that they love about you. Oftentimes, women do not honor their riches, as I call it. They don't really give themselves a lot of credit. They feel as if they're being selfish if they do. And yet, we all deserve to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I love you, I appreciate you, I'm so proud of you, you go girl, so to speak. And we need to take that time, we deserve to take that time. So this is your time to think about what are those things you love about yourself that will allow you to get through anything. Now, in the confront, this is when things can get uncomfortable for people, but I'm going to ask you to stick with me and be as raw, naked, and truthful for yourself as possible. But sometimes we often have to confront the what or the who that could be preventing us from achieving our goals. So, ladies, we always have, often, I won't say always, we often have goals around our weight, our finances, our career. And yet we have people in our lives that will talk us down from pursuing them. And they're talking us down not because they don't want us to be happy or successful, but they're talking us down because they don't want things to change for themselves. They don't want that if you do get that job, or you do get that promotion, or you do get that more of that money, you'll move on and they will no longer be in your life. The what could be location, it could be a company, it could be your job, it could be the community you're in is just holding you back and not working for you. So just make a note of what are the what's and the who's. And it could be yourself. It could simply be that you get yourself in your own way. And therefore, we have to find solutions to that. The other thing I want you to confront is when all is said and done and you're working on discovering and confronting, and as we move forward, what would your life look like when you achieve your goals? And the reason why I have this also in confront, and I ask a similar question in a different way about the riches in the discovery phase, is because too often we don't plan for what our life will look like. We don't think about, yes, if I win the lottery, woohoo! And yet, if you really heard stories about people who have won the lottery, you might think differently. When you get that promotion and you have to move overseas and leave your family, that might have been success and riches for you, and those could have been your goals, but at the same time, you didn't think about, oh my gosh, I'd be leaving my family and my friends and my comfortable lifestyle wherever you might be right now. So I need you to take some time to really think about what would your life look like. You're also going to use this and ground yourself in your response to this in order to, again, to be able to overcome whatever pains you're going to face while you're pursuing your joys. So what would your life look like when you achieve your goals? Now, as you get in the shedding phase, you're using all of this information as you're gaining it and as you're discovering and as you're confronting things in your life. And you will have already, it's a very iterative process. You will already start letting go or moving on or changing and adjusting and shifting. So that's the whole purpose of the shedding phase. And therefore, what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve your goal? There are things you're going to have to let go. There are things that you're going to have to compromise and sacrifice in order to pursue that new job opportunity or that raise you might, or that weight loss that you have. That's easy for us all to relate to. But when we think about our careers, when we think about our own businesses, we don't necessarily say, okay, what do I have to give up or sacrifice or compromise on to achieve that? And yet, if you're going after a new job, you're going to have to sacrifice maybe more hours in your day that you have to be at work versus being at home or at the gym or with your family. You might need to be compromising on what role you have in the home in order to be able to pursue that goal, and therefore talk with your partner, spouse, lover, or whomever, and come up with a plan. You might need to, as you're getting more and more money, you might need to sacrifice where you've been living, and maybe it's close to family and friends, and you're going to be moving and relocating, even if it's in the same area, but it's no longer across the street, so to speak. So what are those things you're willing to sacrifice? And then what or whom do you need to shed? So for instance, I was discovering all of these things about myself, and I'll say that I discovered those nastinesses about myself, while at the same time honoring the riches of the fact that I am a very determined, I am a very educated, smart, I'm a very compassionate and loving person. I was discovering, and yet I was realizing that there was certain people in my life, including a friend of 20 years and including a community and a state I lived in for 12, that they weren't working for me anymore. And so as I went through my discovering and my confronting phases and started shedding the places, the things, the people out of my life, I found myself on my couch alone for a year. Friday nights, Saturday nights, every night. I didn't have the circle of friends / acquaintances that I had before, because they were no longer serving and supporting and motivating and inspiring me. And yet I was the happiest woman alive. I was never lonely. I was just alone. And I was happy and thriving in that world, because I knew that I was shifting and moving toward who I really was meant to be. And that's what I want for you as well. So what or whom are those things, people, and places that you might need to let go and move on from? Now, as a result of all this information, because you're gaining a lot of understanding about yourself, you might be unveiling some things you really didn't think about or didn't consider before. So what are the 1 to 3 things you're willing to do right now to keep yourself moving forward, to start shifting and to start really being able to create the plan that you really want and have the confidence, energy, focus, and determination to start pursuing it? Because remember, you defined that one goal. You already identified what might be get in your way of pursuing it, and what riches you'll hold on to get you through those difficult times. So now, what are those 1 to 3 things you could be doing? And if you're not here at this stage yet, even through this discussion today, maybe you came in and you're already been confronting and shedding things, and you are looking for some understanding of what you could be doing to move to the next level or to create new opportunities for yourself. But some of you may be at the very beginning, and that's all right. That's okay. If you're able to answer this question, then do so. Think about it. It's very similar to a question you heard earlier. At this point in your shift, how will you handle success? Some people, not only do they not think about it, they don't handle it really well. And it's not only just about the fact that you hear many times when certain managers are really put into critical leadership positions and it doesn't work for them. They didn't anticipate what would come with it, what was going to be involved in building a team, building a workforce, really contributing to the productivity, the prosperity, and the profitability of the company. So it could be that, or it could be the fact that you didn't anticipate that when you lose the weight, you were going to have all the attention and all the attraction from other individuals, and all of a sudden you find yourself retreating as a result of it. Maybe when you get that money and get that raise, and you move to that new house or buy those new things, or you're building your wealth for your legacy. Remember that big why. Maybe you're not able to handle it, and you're splurging, or you didn't get your finances, your spending habits under control, and therefore you're not handling it the way you would want to. You want to get a handle on not only what riches means to you and what it would look like, but once you have it, are you prepared and ready to receive it and to really kind of leverage it in your life and make it work for you as opposed to against you? Now, for me, I mentioned that discovery. I mentioned the confronting of the pains that I was feeling that was causing me to lash out, and then the joys I was starting to find. I mentioned the shedding that I would have to do. And my one fear, if I was going to share and disclose with you, I don't have a fear of failure. I don't have a fear of making a fool of myself or not getting where I want to. I have a fear of success. And I've consistently just continued to work on it. And it's gotten smaller and smaller as I work through my own shift to riches process or formula or stages. So how will you handle success? When I think about how I would handle it if my screenplay sold, or my media company was sold, or I did start really gaining the stage, so to speak, in my speaking career, I've been processing what that would look like, what that would feel like, what would that would do, and what my life would look like at the time. So I need you to be thinking about it as well. And if it's early in your shift, don't worry about it. You would come back to this question as you started feeling ready. Because guess what? It's what happens as you do discover, confront, and shed. You start getting excited. You start getting very creative. You start thinking bigger and grander about your life, whether that is your career, your own business, your fitness, or your finances, or your relationships. You start thinking to yourself, okay, what can I do now that I've started having these small to big successes and achievements and accomplishments, and you know, those riches that you're gaining along the way. It's very exciting, and it's very exhilarating, and it certainly provides that joy of confidence and strength and determination and energy behind whatever it is that you want to be doing. And as I mentioned earlier, it is an iterative process. You're going to go through this process, through these stages at various times, and you might start and get pushed back into then confronting or shedding again before you move on to then being able to create. But then you get to a certain level, or you get to that next, and the next thing you find is you're getting insecure again, and you're starting to really question yourself again, or you're just feeling scared and unsure about that next step, that next level, that next big thing. So now you have a tool that you can go and work your way through in order for you to get out of your head and think from your heart, get out of your head and on paper, get out of the illogical and put it into the logical, get out of the emotion and put it into the, not unemotion, but just put it into the practicality of what it is you're going through. And I promise you, you will be shifting, and you will be achieving, and you will be moving toward any goal, any objective, any dream that you have. And then you're going to want to share it and teach it to someone else. And anything that I provide in my programs, in my speaking, in my individual or group coaching is yours to share and teach others. And you're going to want to. I mean, ladies, after all, when we find a good thing, we want everyone to know about it. We want people to benefit as a result of it. And you can do this at work or in your home. So you can use it with your team or with your peers or your managers, and you can use it with your family members or your community members or your friends. But you will want to teach it. And I love when people come back to me and tell me that they've shared my lessons learned or my tips or my shift to riches formula. It's a fabulous, exhilarating feeling. And it's what keeps me moving and pushing through my own pains to always be achieving and reaching and feeling my joys. But that's what I want for you. I want you to feel that excitement, that exhilaration, that energy, that focus, that clarity, that determination that this is your time. This is your one life, and you want results, you want success, and you want to gain everything that you define for yourself in regards to riches. And I should note here too, your definition of riches can and most likely will change over time. I mentioned back when I was telling you a little bit about myself, my definition of riches 8 years ago was position, power, and prosperity. It was all the materialistic things. It was all the things that made other people envy, if not admire of me. And then today, my definition of riches is everything but. It's collaboration, it's connections, it's relationships, it's joy, it's peace, it's contentment, it's comfort, it's the ability to be me. And those are my riches, and that's what I aspire and work very hard and work very focused and determined to achieve. And so whatever riches you define for yourself, I want you to have that, and I want you to have the evolution of that as you go through your own shift. Now, what have we discussed so far in regards to your rich plan, and what have you documented as part of your rich plan so far? As I mentioned, there's hundreds and hundreds of questions, and I have tools and tips and techniques and strategies that I use within each of the stages of the Shift to Riches formula. However, I gave you a really good start to the thought process and the work and the exercise and the massaging. Remember what I said you're going to need to do around your mindset each and every day. So you have now your definition of riches, what success means to you. You've defined one goal. Maybe you define multiples, but you have at least one goal. And you know why you want to work hard, make sacrifices, push through the pain, and do the work that's necessary in order to achieve it. And you know the impact it is going to have on your life and what your life will look like as a result of achieving that goal. And you actually have 1 to 3 things you could be doing right now in order to start acting on it. And I expect that you have the clarity and the focus, some determination and energy and excitement to go and start working it. I wanted to provide you, and I told you I'd provide you some tips, additional tips. So I mentioned at the very beginning, I am a huge believer in journaling, in making notes of your goals, getting it out of your head, putting it on a piece of paper like we talked about. So invest in a journal. It will open up the world to you by making note of what it is you want, what it is you don't want, what's going on in your life, what are you dealing with, work through decisions, work through issues. And a journal is an investment that will pay dividends, not only today, but your entire life. As we mentioned, remove all the distractions. When you're working on something, when you're processing something, when you're doing your planning and your goal setting, you want to be able to be free of any distractions. I used to have my vendors laugh when I was in my mid-20s, and I mentioned I was a buyer, a retail buyer. And my vendors would come in and kind of start displaying on my desk, on the walls. They'd start hanging up. I was a lingerie buyer. They'd start hanging up their merchandise. Well, they'd always laugh because when they came in, I would have removed everything from my desk and the walls, which is typically, would have the things that are typically on a desk, and the walls would have other merchandise. It would have other things that I was working on. And I'd make sure that the room was pretty empty so they could come in and all we needed to do is focus on that task or that activity. And I've carried that habit with me all through my life. And I remove all those distractions so I can focus on my task at hand and to ensure my probability of success. Not to say it always works, but removing those distractions will take out a big chunk of the possibility of not achieving or not completing your tasks. Write down your goals. It's part of the journaling, but more importantly, it's getting it out of your head and putting it on a piece of paper. And then you can also go as far as defining them as SMART goals. You can go out online or to sheddingthebitch.com and look for my SMART goal worksheet. And yet you want to write them down. You don't want to keep them in your head. And one major rich tip, and I use this with a good number of my clients, it would be to initiate an assessment of yourself, whether that be within the workplace and doing it formally with HR involved, or doing it informally with maybe your manager and your team initiating it. But initiating an assessment will give you the feedback, the honesty, the transparency you might need as you work through your discovering and confronting and then shedding phases. And you could do this personally or professionally. I did it with my sisters as I was kind of initially trying to uncover why I had been let go from my career. I sat my sisters down and my mother on one of our beach trips, and I asked them, how would you describe me? How would you, or what do you view me as both a professional as well as a sister, daughter, friend? And I had them write it down, and then they gave them to me, and then we went out for dinner and we had a very frank discussion about it. But it was worth everything to me to have that information. As hard as it was, as difficult as it was, and as humbling as it was. So think about initiating your own assessment within your life or at work. And then treat tasks like an appointment. And what I mean by this is oftentimes when people say that they can't seem to get done what other people can get done in the same 24-hour day, it's often because of the fact that they didn't plan out the amount of time and therefore have the focus in order to even start it, let alone finish it. So I tell individuals, and this is how I handle it myself, to identify the work you're going to do for any given day, and it's based on the goals that you already defined, and then set time blocks as if appointments for working on and focusing on that task. And work on that task until it's finished. But treat those appointments like you would for a doctor's appointment or your kid's appointment or whatever the case might be. And you will find your productivity growing immensely. And then engage someone who will champion, motivate, kick you in the butt, hold you accountable, support you, and guide you through whatever it is you might be working on or working toward. You deserve that, and it will be a tremendous support system for you for when you even have the highs, let alone the lows. So whether that's a friend, a family member, or a professional coach, engage someone that can be there for you and that can kind of champion you along the way. Now, the final question I have to ask you is this: are you worth making the investment, digging deep, spending the time, and doing the work necessary for you to achieve your goals? Are you worth it? Even if you answer a slight little, not sure, not really, right now, we're going to work through those pains. We're going to work through trying to shift that. But are you worth the fact that you want something different, that you want to change, you want something new? Because maybe it hasn't worked for you to date. Because if you said yes to that, even if you have some doubts and some discomfort, but you said yes to that, then I really have a special invitation for you. But it's not going to be for anyone who doesn't value themselves. It's not going to be for someone who won't invest in themselves. It's not for someone who's out there thinking, you know what, I can do this by myself. This isn't hard. Bernadette did it by herself. And I should emphasize that I've had my own coach for 9 years. So long before I really discovered and then set out on my confronting and shedding and creating stages. So I never went alone. And I had mentioned that I'm one of 12. So I certainly am never alone when it comes to my family. And now the friends that I've brought into my life as a result of my own shift. Now, if you said yes, this is definitely for those of you who want something different, who want more out of life. Someone who knows hope is not a strategy and really believes that, and that they just simply need some support. They need that champion in their corner, and that they're willing to invest in themselves. And the investment is time, it's money, it's resources, it's going through the discomfort, it's also experiencing the joys. And if you said yes, and you're one of those individuals then I would love to help you and guide you to having and creating your very own rich plan. And it could be a combination of your career or life. It could be all your career, your business, and your life. However that will kind of flush itself out. And we'll do it within a 90-minute one-on-one strategy session, which we'll do via a video/phone call. And there'll be pre-work, there'll be the 90-minute work, and there'll be post. But you'll have that one-on-one focus with me for 90 minutes for just $1,495. Now, I do have my corporate and entrepreneurial clients and my speaking schedule, so to speak. But I would love for you to sign up and grab one of the available spots for you to be able to have your very own rich plan that you can start acting on right now in order to achieve your goals and get what you want and deserve. Now, what will be in the session? It's going to be packed. As I mentioned, we're going to assess, and this is the pre. We're going to have you do some assessment of where you are today. So we have a nice baseline for where you want to go. And then we're going to define those goals. We're going to define and identify your why. And we're going to come up with a shift plan that's a component of the overall rich plan, because it's based on your mind shifts that are going to need to happen. It's based on the riches that you honor within yourself. And we're going to identify all of those things. And then we're going to put together a 90-day execution plan that, based on all that information, will allow you to start executing it. And then as a result, I'm going to be learning a lot about how you work, how you don't work, what works for you, what works against you. And I'm going to tailor some execution, time management, and other tips and tools that you can be using to ensure that you are successful in executing on your plan. And as a bonus, I'm going to throw in a post call 30 days later where we can touch base on how you're doing against your plan. Now, you'll also be able to email me periodically throughout that 30 days and 90 days with any questions, or just if you're stuck or whatever the case might be. I'll give you a copy of my Shedding the Corporate Bitch book. It does have great lessons learned and best practices, and does help you relate to what it is that you might be dealing with in any aspect of your life. And I will have a private Facebook group for you and for other people within the program, so to speak, to ask whatever questions you have, to share whatever story, to address any challenge, to ask for new tips or advice that you're looking for. But it's a very collaborative and engaging environment, and safe, because it'll be confidential to only those that have had a rich plan strategy with me. And it'll give you that extra connection to other people, so you can relate to the fact that whether it's within a corporate organization, whether it's in your own business, or whether it's a situation or a goal you have at home, you're going to be able to connect with people that are very much like you. All right. So as I said earlier on, you have this one life to live, and it goes really, really fast. How do you want to spend it? It's a question I ask my listeners, my fans, my followers, my audience members, my clients. How do you want to spend this one life that goes really, really fast? Because if you want different and change, then schedule your strategy session with me. You can sign up and grab one of my available spots for that 90 minutes. It's your time. It really is. And you just want to commit to yourself now. And if so, then go ahead and sign up and get some spot or a spot on my calendar. And I am going to be so excited to help you discover and confront and shed all the things out of your life you don't want, so you can bring in and create what you do. Thank you so much for joining the program today, and I'll look forward to helping you shift to riches. Thanks, everyone.